What's happening, YouTube? I hope you're all doing good. This week on Trial Talk, I thought I could share with you the latest interview that we did with Chris Frediani on Fix Radio. So in this episode we talk about marketing as a sole trader, and we give some tips of what can you do when you've just started up your plastering business. Nobody knows who you are and you're just looking to get some leads coming in without spending silly money on trade association sites. So we talk about that and give you some of my tips that have helped me, but also Pete Carter's on there. If you don't know who Pete Carter is a plasterer slash inventor. So Pete invented the socket beads along with many other products. If you're interested in looking at Pete's products that he's invented, join Trial Talk Facebook group. And you'll be able to see Pete's posts and also reviews from members who have actually used the products. As you know, we use the socket beads and the spotlight beads. He also invents tools as well for plasterers. So very clever man. So we go back to back on this episode. So we have a bit of a chat with me about online marketing, and then Chris will speak to Pete about inventing tools and how can you get an idea out. Let's say that you've got an idea on a tool or a product. What's the process when it comes to inventing tools? Pete will talk about that and the steps to take if you're interested in getting a tool out there or an idea out. So enjoy this video and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day. Thanks, guys.
Welcome to the Plastering Show with British Gypsum. I'm Chris Frediani, and on today's show we're talking about sole traders in plastering. I'll be joined by Stuart Roberts, creator of Trial Talk, a plasterers help group on Facebook. Last time Stuart joined me on the show, we talked about the group and the early stages of his career. On today's show, I want to ask him about his experiences as a sole trader in plastering and to get some tips on how to create an organic marketing campaign online as a sole trader. Then inventor and plasterer Pete Carter will return to finish off our chat from a fortnight ago. We'll touch on the importance of a sole trader working alongside each other rather than against each other in their local area. And I want to get some practical advice for any budding inventors out there listening in on how to get your idea off the ground and into production.
Fix Radio.
You're listening to The Plastering Show, and joining me once again is Stuart Roberts, founder of Trial Talk, an advice group for plasterers on Facebook. Now, Stuart, today I want to talk to you about your experiences as a sole trader and how to market your services online effectively. First of all, as a sole trader, is it challenging to keep the work flowing all year round?
Oh, yeah, Chris, thanks for having me on again. Is it challenging to keep work flowing all year round? When I first started up, I really struggled to keep busy all year round, and I think a lot of that was to do with me not being very experienced in business or marketing, should we say. Yeah. And I'd find that, you know, one week I'd have work and the next week it'd be quiet, and it sort of went on like that for some time until I was able to get my leads consistent and sort of figure out what were the successful plastering businesses doing in my area and how can I mimic them and try and get the leads coming in a bit more regular. And one of the things I did initially, I think a lot of people do, is I paid for leads through some of the online trade association sites. So that sort of got leads coming in quickly, but I found it was quite an expensive game. So I wanted to sort of build my online presence up organically, really, rather than relying on these companies. So once I was able to do that, I found that I could quickly keep busy all year round. So yeah, I think it's a case of learning a few business skills and getting your online presence sorted organically rather than hemorrhaging money into these companies. That's what worked for me.
Yeah. So how do you source most of your work now then?
Most of our work is through Google. Google My Business, which is a completely free online platform. People will search plasterers Coventry, for example, and will pop up somewhere on on the map listings. We get a lot of leads through there. A lot of our work is referrals, so we get a lot of recommendations, but mostly it is Google. We do use some of the platforms. We use Trustpilot, we use Facebook, but I say the bulk of it is through Google.
Okay, so if to any advice to a sole trader starting off out there, they're the sort of platforms you'd go down. Them ones you just mentioned, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. When you're first starting up, you're not going to have any money if you're anything like me. So my idea was just to sort of leverage any free online platforms that I could really, but and I say save that money, that membership fees, and save that, and you try to utilise it elsewhere in the business. Maybe on new equipment, or maybe taking on a labourer. So yeah, platforms like Google, Facebook, even YouTube. You can set up a free YouTube channel. Platforms like Free Index, that's a good one that you can use if you've just started up. And the idea is just to build up online reviews really, and also pictures. So get yourself some decent quality pictures of your work, post them up, get a handful of 5-star reviews, and that'll get the ball rolling for you.
Yeah,
and that's what worked for me.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you feel this is very important to market your business online as a plasterer, don't you? It's something that's how you've built up your business. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now, from talking to people on the show, some of the lead provider websites out there work for some spreads. What's your experiences been like with these?
Well, as I say, if you've just started up and you've got, you're invisible essentially, aren't you? You've just started your plastering business. Nobody knows who you are. You've got your competitors in your local area. So if you're looking to generate leads overnight, you can, you jump on these online platforms, part with your money, and you've got leads coming in. So short term, I've got nothing against them. I think for a long-term strategy, for me personally, it wasn't a good idea, just because I say the costs that are involved. You're paying that annual membership, and then oftentimes you've also got the cost per lead as well, and you can be competing against 2 or 3 other guys after paying for leads, so no guarantee of winning the work. So
because there are lads out there listening, and they're going, I'm paying all this money, and you're sort of going to be helping them out now with your personal advice, saying, well, look, you go down that road, but there's another road, and it's not going to cost you any money in there, which is very important when you're setting out.
Exactly. And another point I'd like to make on these sites is you build up all your online reviews and your online presence, but then if the time comes where you can't afford it anymore, and you have to cancel membership, then all those reviews that you've built up are lost. You can have the rug pulled from under your feet. So and then you're back at the drawing board then looking for leads, and I think they can have you over a barrel in that way, where you built up your presence and your online reviews, and without them the phone's going to stop ringing. And I've spoke to lads on Trial Talk that have inboxed me and said, look, I've cancelled my membership, I won't name any names, and now I've got no leads, so I've had to rejoin. So they're sort of backed into a corner, if you like, and they can't get out of it. So once they're in that way of depending on these companies, they find it hard to cancel the membership. So what we try and say is build up, if you've just started up, by all means join the sites as a short-term strategy if it helps, but alongside that, try and build up your online organic listing through Google and through these other platforms, so at least you're not depending on them so heavily.
Right, no, it's good advice. Now, what about the local community Facebook groups? They're like residents of Bristol or something like that. Are they a good source of work, do you think, or is there some issues with them?
I've had positive and negative experiences with the Facebook community group. So some people on the group, they rave about them, and they say, I keep busy all year round just through marketing my business through Facebook, which is, fair play. It can work. It has worked for me in the past. I've had some decent jobs through it. But again, I find that in my experience, it was the leads that were coming in were quite low value, really. I'd get a lot of tyre kickers coming through the Facebook lead. So, for example, I'd get pictures sent through on WhatsApp, and it might be a picture of a wall that's still got paper on, and how much to plaster this, and that sort of thing. So, you think, well, at least take the paper off. And I know that they'd probably sent that picture to 4 or 5 of the local guys in the area, and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to try and raise my game a bit here and try and move away from Facebook a little bit. But I'm not knocking it completely. I say I've had some decent jobs come through Facebook, but I did find it can be a race to the bottom. A lot of low value leads come through, and for me, I think Google's the big one. Where if you can get yourself a decent organic listing on Google, build up those 5-star reviews, get some decent photos in there, keep the content relevant, you'll find that you'll get off to a strong start, and you don't really need to be looking at these other avenues.
Yeah. You keep mentioning like reviews. So what I'm going to ask you now is like, what's your experience been like with the scale of jobs you've taken on as a sole trader? Have you caught yourself out in the past and bitten off more than you can chew, worrying about the reviews of letting people down? You've got all these adverts kicking, and you're, yes, I can do it, and all of a sudden you're thinking, have I taken on too much?
I have. I think we all might have, Chris. I took a big one on in the Cotswolds a few years back. It all come good in the end, but I think the job was a little bit too much for me and my little team to handle, if I'm completely honest. And I did have to call on some local mates that were in the trade to come and give us a push. But again, it probably was, like you say, the pressure to deliver, isn't it? And having that worry that, if I don't get this right, if I don't deliver, then I'll get a bad review. We got it sorted in the end.
Yeah, it's all learning then.
Yeah.
It's a learning curve, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It is a learning curve, yeah. And we take the jobs that I take on these days, although we do take on some big jobs, I'll always try and make sure that we can manage them in-house rather than having to call in lads, because you never know what it's like. They might be booked up, so if I can't manage it in-house with my own team, I tend to, pass the number on to a bigger company.
Fix Radio. Time to crack on.
Let's welcome back on the Plastering Show, inventor and plasterer Pete Carter. Now today, we've been talking about sole traders in plastering. I also want to get some practical advice from you for plasterers that might have an idea for an invention of their own, but aren't sure how to get it off the ground and into reality. But before that, you sent a text into the show a few months back saying you support my calls for sole traders and spreads in general to work alongside each other rather than to compete. Is it really important for sole traders in particular?
Oh, definitely. Especially if you're a one-man band, effectively. There's really only 2 methods I see of working. That's you either price your work high enough that you could lose one day in 5 or 6 for transition days, like between jobs, or if for some reason a job changes and it grows by a day or loses a day and the next one's not ready, it's so handy to be able to have people you can call on to step in. You can't do it all, basically.
I've always said it to sole traders. There's no fool like a busy fool, is there? There's no point having too much work you can't do, because then you become unreliable. If you price it too high to lower your workload, you're in danger of, when it's quiet, these customers not coming back to you because you're too expensive. So to share it with another sole trading plasterer, it makes perfect sense, doesn't it? And you can jump on his job, he can jump on your job, and throughout the year you can talk to each other. What have you got coming on? What have I got coming on? And between you, sort of fill the diary up and keep everyone happy. It's got to be the way forward, hasn't it?
Yeah. And to be honest, if you're direct competition with someone else in your area, there's every chance that people are getting 3 prices and going with the lowest price, and it's a race to the bottom.
Yes.
If you're all talking at the same levels, if people aren't undercutting each other, because
that's what we're all talking about it. You're holding the prices down by doing that, aren't you? Which isn't any good to anyone.
Yeah.
By undercutting. So it's better off to share your pricing with fellow plasterers and keep it where it should be, up, not down. So that's all good. Going back to the inventions, Pete, what advice would you have for someone that might have an idea but doesn't know how to get it off the ground?
It's a delicate process at the beginning of it. I've now met many people that are ex-tradespeople and have invented something. Firstly is try not to tell the least amount of people you can. don't put it on the internet.
No, no.
Get some sort of protection on it, either a registered design or a patent.
How would you do that? Because to someone like me, wouldn't have a clue. It sounded easy. How would you go about it? How'd you do it?
It's a complete minefield, to be honest. I've met quite a few people that if you Google patent, there's dozens of companies on there that look like government websites, but they're not. They're patent attorneys. If you go through a patent attorney, the minimum it's going to cost you is 10 grand. Some people pay much more than that for it, and they don't even get a patent. And it'll take 3 years if you go for a patent attorney. But if you go on the u.gov website, Intellectual Property Office, IPO, if you go onto that and make sure you're on the one with u.gov at the end of it, you can do it all yourself, and there's templates on there that you can adjust to suit your situation. You have got to be pretty literate, really, to do it. It's quite complicated. I'm very lucky. My wife is extremely clever, and she's got a degree and teaches, so she helps me with all the paperwork. You can do a patent really from scratch for about £350. Registered designs, even cheaper than that. You do a registered design for about 125, I think.
Yeah.
Which I've done a few of. I'm not sure. I think I've got 27 registered designs.
Oh dear.
And now potentially things that I may bring out in the future. Because of the cost of tooling, you have to sort of balance up whether it's going to be viable. Because anybody could have the greatest idea in the world, but if it's going to cost too much to manufacture and then too much for the customer to buy it, it's not a viable product, and it's just going to kill you financially. I've seen that a few times as well, where people are absolutely certain they've got a great idea, and they've put 10 grand into getting a patent, another 10, 15 grand into tooling, and they don't sell anything, which is a horrid thing. But you really need to do a bit of market research and sort of see that the idea is worthy. I recently did a show in Coventry, one of the Alex shows, and part of the reason for that was market research, because I've got 6 ideas that are ready for tooling now, and in a couple of months' time I've got a little bit more money coming in, so I plan on getting at least one of them going. Yes. But I just wanted to market research to which one is the most likely to succeed.
Well, that's another plastering show done and dusted here on Fix Radio. Next week, I'll have a special show recorded from the recent DIY SOS build in Stoke-on-Trent with none other than Mr. Nick Knowles and a previous guest from the show that's just joined us on site.